Today in class, we're going to glaze our ceramic pendant vases. It has been bisque fired, so it's much harder than the soft clay you use to make it. So our volunteers today have brought several fun new colors to glaze with. And for each color you select, we're just going to pour about a quarter-size portion of it onto our plate. We're sharing with the rest of our school, so we don't want to waste any glaze. Since I've chosen this light pink color for my main color, I'm going to use a large brush because it covers a lot more area. And I'm going to end up putting 3 full coats on this. This first coat is going to go on really easily, and this bisque piece is going to soak it up. So it's going to dry super, super fast. And you'll notice it's going to go from this really glossy color to a chalky color. So right now my first coat is on and kind of comes off on my hands. So I'm going to set it down for a little bit to let it dry. You can tell that this layer of glaze is dry when no paint comes off on your hands when you touch it, and it kind of looks really chalky. So now I'm going to put a second layer of glaze right on top of my first layer. So wherever I put pink before, I'm going to put it again. And we wait for it to dry. Otherwise, we're just moving that first layer around and we're not actually adding another coat of glaze. The second coat of glaze is dried. It's chalky looking. It's not on my hands. So I'm going to add a third coat of glaze. The reason we do this is that with 3 coats, you're not going to see streak marks from your brush, and it's going to be a very bright color, and you're not going to see the color of your pottery peeking out from beneath. After I finish glazing the outside of my ceramic, I'm now going to do the inside. And I don't really need to do 3 layers. I'm going to do 2 layers for the inside. And I have picked this amazing speckled glaze. And speckled glazes keep little bitty bits of color inside of them that even make it through the kiln firing. We have several new colors for you to try out. And we use glazes so that they seal our ceramic so that water cannot soak into them, and it makes your piece a lot stronger. All right, I have all my base layers on and the inside painted. I'm now going to go work on my detail. I don't need as much glaze when I'm working on details. And here's where I put one of those wonderful stamps on. And I'm only going to do 1 coat here because I actually do want to see some of the ceramic peeking out so that I can see kind of the highs and lows of this stamp. You know, parts of it are deep down and some parts are still up a little bit. And with 1 layer of glaze, I'm going to be able to see all of those indentions and actually be able to make out what the stamp was when I put it on there. I also added a few fingerprints on there, and I'm going to add a very thin layer of glaze here just to highlight those. Just a little bit of a paintbrush movement. I'm not going to go over it a second time. I just want a little bit of color right here. And lastly, as a little bit of an experiment, I am going to use a toothbrush dipped in paint, and I'm going to run my thumb across it to put a little bit of speckling on the front of my pottery. Now remember, this is fully painted with 3 coats, so this is very light, thin paint that I'm just putting a little bit of splatter right across it. And we'll see how this turns out once I get it back out of the kiln. After that experiment, I had to let it dry. This is what it looks like right now. And it's time for me to take a detail brush and go ahead and put my name on the back. I had etched it in with a stylus when I made this pendant vase, but now I'm going to go put a little bit of paint in there just to make sure that my name really stands out and people know who made this piece. I could stop right after putting my name, but I always love to find a way to add just a couple of more details, just add a little bit more glaze, something that makes it uniquely mine. Here's my finished ceramic pendant vase, fully dried. And here are a couple other examples I made while I was kind of trying to figure out our ceramic project for this year, just so you might have a few other ideas of what you could do with your project. Notice these are all very, very chalky and dry, kind of dull looking, but we're going to show you what they look like coming out of the kiln. After the kiln, you'll see all of these pieces are now very glossy and shiny. Look how you can see that stamp. Since I only did that 1 layer, that stamp really shows up, and that speckled blue inside. And then you can see here, I actually used the speckle candy apple. That's why you see the red with all the white dots. And here you'll see some where I used, I think, both of those colors. And my last one, I used some speckled candy apple for my flower and my name. So I hope you really love working with glaze just as much as I do. Here are a few more examples created by our Pause Art volunteer team. Hopefully you will find something that inspires you with your project today. In case you can't remember all of the tips and tricks that I mentioned earlier in this video, I've made a list here of the things to remember while glazing.